selfie right now. And I'm gonna post this with the hashtag youth vote, and I encourage y'all to do the same. So smile, hey! I got some of you. But y'all look great, whoever was in the shot. Awesome. Second of all, we are forbidding that the candidates address each other for time's sake, right? So if they break this rule or if they go over their time, they're gonna be subject to a very loud and very obnoxious buzzer. Side of the house, there you go. That's the buzzer.
Turn it up.
Right. So we want to make sure that we're keeping that on time, and we got some backup over there. So third of all, we want you to have fun, right? So if you hear an answer that you like, cheer, clap, whistle. Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Yeah. But if you hear an answer you don't like, let's hear that too. Yes. All acceptable. There's a why. All acceptable, right? But be respectful, right? Be respectful. Don't go calling anyone names up here. Don't go throwing any tomatoes. I just bought this shirt, and I'd like to keep it, you know? So keep that on. But the biggest thing is this: we want you to have fun, right? So that's what we want to emphasize here tonight. So that's pretty much it. So before we get our candidates up on stage, can I get a drum roll, please? Allow me to introduce you to our State Youth Director, Tyson McGowan.
Tia. Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Tyson McGowan. As Tia said, I'm the State Director here in Nevada with NextGen Democrat. I'm incredibly excited to be here, especially because in this district, which I actually happen to live, I got my organizing start here. I knocked these neighborhoods, knocked on voters' doors, registered them to vote, and really found a passion for organizing and the impact that it can have. So I know, first and foremost, the power that you can have when you have a progressive champion fighting for you in DC. And that's something that's absolutely critical, more so than ever in this election cycle. We're really excited to do this work with NextGen America. NextGen America has been on the ground in states like Nevada since 2014, really connecting to young people and lifting up their voices and showing them the organizing power that they have in their communities. And it's so important for us to get out and to make sure that we're continuing to do that work. We've been lucky enough to be on the ground since late summer of last year, and since that time, we've done some incredible work registering thousands of new young voters, doing a really amazing survey to really find out what issues actually matter to young people and what's going to get them motivated to turn out on election day. Really incredible work that we've done, and we've done along with our partners, but we cannot sustain that if we don't have continued action. You're going to hear some really great, stories and policy platforms that these candidates hope to do to earn your votes, but they won't get a chance to do the good work that they want to do in Washington if we're not doing the good work here, mobilizing our community and making sure that they're getting connected to their democracy. And so that's why we need all of you to step up, to take action with us, with great organizations like Make It Work Nevada, all the wonderful progressive organizations that are doing valuable work in this community. Like Tia said, we do want this to be an interactive event. So y'all have your smartphones, grab them. Tia, you got your smartphone on you? Okay, you got your smartphone on you. Okay, I heard you taking a selfie, so I know you got it. We need everyone to grab out their phones, text the word rising to 82623. Text the word rising to 82623. You do that, you'll get our updates, you'll find out about more cool events like this that we're planning, all of the great action events that we're going to be doing out in communities, on campuses, and with our great allied organizations. We can't do this work without y'all. When we're active, when we're lifting our voices heard, representatives in this district and across the state will hopefully have some really great progressive victories in November. So thank you all for being here. I hope you have a great time. Hope you ask some great questions for these candidates. They're excited, they're a little nervous. It's going to be fun. So I'm going to pass it back to Tia to get this thing rolling.
All right, thank you. Can we do it over Tyson? All right. I think I'm ready to get this started. Are y'all ready? Yeah. I don't think the other districts really heard us, but are you ready? Okay, excuse me. All right. So without further ado, let's welcome the candidates on stage. everyone. Thank you for being here. How y'all feeling?
Hello, feeling good?
Yeah? Just John? Yeah? Okay, cool. All right, so we are going to kick this off with each candidate getting 2 minutes for their opening statements. And John, we'll kick it off straight with you.
Awesome. Well, good evening, everyone. How is everybody tonight? That was a little nerve-wracking standing in the back. We were practicing our kicks and a little singing. We didn't know what to expect. So thank you again for having us, Tia. Amazing job. My name is John Anzalone, and I am the very, very proud principal at Sierra Vista High School here in Clark County. And I've been in education now 18 years here in the Clark County School District. Been through a lot of ups and downs, and recently, as many of you know, we're going through some downs in a lot of different ways. And that's one of the reasons that I'm running for office. I come from Buffalo, New York. I don't know if we have any New Yorkers here in the crowd. But back in Buffalo, you know, we have a big Italian family, still do. And in a big Italian family, like many of you might know, we have a lot of love. But one thing we didn't have a lot of was the money. My parents were very, very hard workers, but it was a very blue-collar town. And we had some very unstable times in our life. And growing up, the one thing I always knew that I wanted in my life and for my future family was stability. And so after going through school and moving out here to Nevada, I decided to take the plunge into education, and I became a teacher. And I have to tell you, I am so proud of our teachers. They're standing up, they're fighting for what they deserve, and they're finally, you know, standing up together and uniting. And I'll tell you, when teachers stand up together and get organized, they're tough cookies. So I think we need to give a hand to our amazing teachers out there fighting so hard. And so, after deciding that I wanted to help on a bigger scale, I moved into being a principal. And I've been able to give so much to kids and graduating students. And since then, and since Parkland, I think it was, that really motivated me to help on a bigger scale. And I'll talk about that a little tonight. But I think this is the time where we need education, a voice from education, and an educator to step up. And I'm doing that for my kids, for their kids. Thank you so much.
It's great to be here with the other candidates. And thank you to all of you for turning out tonight. This is what democracy is all about, and this is what democracy looks like. So thank you. For me, I am running because I am as frustrated with the chaos in Washington as all of you. And after the years of progress that we were making in the last administration, to see that legacy being torn apart frustrates me, and it's one of the reasons why I'm running. This is the community that helped to raise me. I was born and raised here. And there are issues that are direly important to all of us that we need to fight for. And like you, I started in my legislative process right here serving in this community. Serving on the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Committee was where I first got my voice in the political process. And then later, as a volunteer on a gubernatorial campaign, walking door to door and talking to voters about the issues. Whether it's running Nevada Partners in the Culinary Academy, the largest employment and training nonprofit here in the state of Nevada for more than 10 years, or serving in the Nevada State Senate for 8 years, it's always been about giving back to the community that really helped to make me the person that I am today. And whether it's issues like prescription affordability, student debt, gun violence, all of these are the issues that we are here to talk about with you and to answer your questions. And I look forward to earning your support tonight over the course of this campaign, and hopefully when I have the opportunity to serve you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Allison.
Thank you for inviting me out tonight. I am Allison Stevens, and I'm running for the 4th Congressional District as well. I'm a mom. I have 2 amazing children, TJ and Parker. They're 13 and 11. And I've been in Nevada for over 20 years. And when we moved here, actually it was a few blocks from where we are right now. From that time, I've been engaged in the community in various ways, whether it's been, volunteering for nonprofits or sitting on boards or engaging in various acts of community engagement or activism. And at a certain point, someone said to me, hey, have you ever thought about running for office? And so when I did so, I ran for the Board of Regents for the Nevada System of Higher Education, and there I've continued my ongoing community service. And I've continued to fight for the values that we all share, like keeping tuition low, like making sure that our students actually have access to health insurance, promoting education, making sure that we have adequate training for healthcare professionals, that we're connecting our community colleges to the businesses and industries that actually provide jobs. And so here I am tonight, asking for your vote for Congress. Because I'm less interested in going to Washington and hearing what they have to say and coming and telling you than I am actually listening and engaging with the constituents here in CD4, understanding what those concerns are, and taking my experience to apply it there in Washington on your behalf. I appreciate your time this evening, and I hope that I'll be able to earn your vote.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Good evening, everyone. And first of all, I want to apologize for my really dressed down attire. I went to work today to work and thought I'd get a chance to go home and put something on that would be more befitting of your importance. But anyway, so this is why I'm running. I am an African American. I'm a woman. I'm a member of the LGBTQ community. I'm a veteran. I'm an ordained minister. And those first three that I said, those are the three most marginalized communities in the world. In the world. And so the first reason I want to run, and I've got to win, is because we've got to bring back equality. We've got to bring civility. Equality is not just important because I'm a member of the LGBT community. Equality is important because we also have got to have equality in our social services, equality in our justice system, equality and equity in our economic systems. We've got to have all of those things. And I want to run because I'm used to fighting for everything that I've gotten, and now I want to take that experience and fight for you. Second reason I'm running is as a veteran. I spent almost 30 years in the military. My last assignment was at the Pentagon. And one of the things that I saw at the Pentagon during 2003 to 2006, I saw how young men and young women were dying in a war that was unnecessary. I'm running because I believe that we ought to use every tool in our diplomacy toolbox before we ever go to war. I'm running because I believe that for every $1 we put into war, we ought to have another $5 set aside so that we can take care of the veterans when they come back home. We've got to fund the VA. We've got to make sure that we're taking care of our military families. We've got to make sure that we're giving them the pay and allowances that they deserve. Last but not least, I'm also running because I believe that we have got to expand our renewable energy resources because not only is it good for the environment, it's good for economic development, and I want to run to take that voice and this passion to Washington, D.C. to represent you. Thank you, and I hope I can earn your vote.
Hello, my name is Amy Malella, and I'm running because I believe that we need bold, progressive leadership in Washington, D.C. I bring a unique mix of both personal and professional experience. I have learned firsthand the devastation of having insufficient legislation that really puts the needs of the people first. You see, I was raised in Maryland to a union iron worker, and I had a pretty typical life till my parents divorced, and that was my first introduction to poverty. Then as a single mother, I had my real introduction to poverty, raising 2 children on my own, oftentimes being on WIC, food stamps, Medicaid, and homeless, living on people's couches. I understand that struggle. Then I also worked my way through college, and I became a chief financial officer, devoting most of my career to nonprofits, working for people with disabilities, spurred on by my own activism for my children who are on the autism spectrum. The time came, a turning point in my life, when I learned the wisdom behind you have to have a test in order to have a testimony. When my daughter Shalyn became a victim of our for-profit healthcare system at the age of 22. We have to have people in office that will fight to put people over profit, that will not be beholden to corporations, to lobbyists, or to special interests. who are not working for industries that are sitting there taking money from the fossil fuel industry and for-profit prisons. We need true representation for the people. It's time for a people's candidate, and I am just that. My name is Amy Varela, and I hope that I can win your vote. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much again, everyone, for being here. Let's kick this off, right? All right, so the first section of our forum here will be a lightning round. So I'm gonna throw some simple questions at y'all, and we'll just go through here. I'll have a few questions, so we'll just start at John every time, just for simplicity, right? So try to keep your answers short. We'll rotate through a little bit, but we'll just start here. And then try to keep your answers short, right? So this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be fun. All right. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
One superpower. I would want to be invisible so I can go to Washington and be a fly on the wall and really try to make some sense out of what they're doing out there. That's what I would want to do.
I thought that was going to go in a different direction. So you're going to do that. All right, cool. Steven, what would you do?
I think my superpower would be peace. Peace in the world, peace in myself, peace in our community. I think we need a lot more civility. We think we need to come together as people again and recognize that we're striving together to try to make a difference in our world. The fact that each one of us are running for office and to put our names on a ballot is because we actually want to make a difference in the lives of other people.
Yeah, thank you. Profound. Allison?
If I had a superpower, it would be to heal the sick. We just see all too often, and I've experienced it too often with, myself, with my sister becoming disabled at the age of 26, never to be able to work, always to live in pain. My son who has juvenile arthritis and learning disabilities, hearing issues, we see it. Luckily, my sister has Medicare. Luckily, my son has private insurance through my job. All the people who don't have access to that, all the people who are like my son waiting for a doctor, a specialist that we don't have here in Nevada, they have to wait for one to come from out of state. So if I were able to do anything, the superpower of giving people their health would be at the top of my list.
Well, that's powerful. Thank you. Pat.
So not to be contrary, as a woman, we already have superpowers. We already have superpowers because we know what it's like as parents. We know when two of our children are fighting, we know how to be peacemakers. As moms, as women, we also know how to go into a position or a situation of chaos, and we know how to come out of that with peace. As women, we also know what it feels like to have this superpower, and then to have people to constantly push you down, but still, as Maya Angelou said, still I rise. So my superpower is just to continue to be empowered as a woman and say, time's up. No more Me Too. It's time for us to take back our voices and use what God has given to us as women. No offense, brothers, but women. We've got to take back our power. We already have a superpower. Let's use it.
Thank you. Amy, what would it be?
Well, with all the shenanigans and mayhem in Washington, D.C., I like to be telepathic. I'd like to know what in the heck is going on in their minds and then be able to use that to find our way to reason with certain individuals, maybe even number 45.
All right, very cool. These are the questions we want to know the answers to. All right, so second question. Again, we're going to start with John.
There we go.
Obviously, a number of your staff is in the audience here tonight. So what would be 3 adjectives your campaign manager would privately use to describe you?
To describe me?
Yes. Bear it all out.
Devastatingly handsome, I would say.
Well, that's 2.
Let's see. First of all, I would say I'm a good listener. I definitely tend to take advice very well, and try to use that in a good way. I would say it would also describe me as loyal. Someone who doesn't break promises and make sure I stand behind not only my friends and my family, but everyone who works with me and around me. And I would say truly caring, someone who does everything with an open heart, not deceitfully, not for any hidden agenda, just like I am every single day with my teachers and my students. Someone who really works from right here, but also here as well. But if it's not coming from here, then to me it's not worth doing. So I would say those three things.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Steven, what 3 words your campaign manager used to describe you?
To be fair, I think they would start by saying, I am passionate, I am committed, particularly to people and issues and trying to make a difference in the lives of other people. And I think they would say, I've got opinions about things and the way things should be done, because I believe in excellence and getting results. And so I think that's what they would say.
Awesome. Allison?
Well, my team laughs at all my jokes. So I'm going to start with really funny. And then also, I think they would describe me as loyal. I'm fiercely loyal, in addition to being really data and fact driven. I believe in getting the facts. I believe in understanding. I believe in then knowing how those facts and policies and the things that we were talking about actually impact people in their lives. And that's how I formulate decisions.
All right, thank you. Pat, what 3 words would it be?
Let's see here, what can I say that I can say out loud?
This is a youth event.
Yeah, they would, I don't think that they would say deep, because I think about things in various and sundry ways, and I'm always looking to make sure that whatever it is that is getting ready to happen is going to be for the betterment of people who are usually the underdog. I think that they would also probably describe me as feisty, especially given what's happening right now in DC. It's not just that I'm annoyed, it's not just because I'm aggravated, but it's because I have fought, as I said before, all of my life. And I am annoyed because I don't see enough of that in DC. I think they'd also say that I'm not a quitter. Because if you're going to fight for yourself and fight for others, you have to have the tenacity, the stick-to-itiveness to make sure that you don't run when the battle gets too hot, when things get too tough. So deep, because the way I think they would say that I'm feisty, and they'd also say I'm not a quitter.
All right, awesome. All right, Amy, 3 words. What would it be?
I'm not going to say what I really think the first one, but but I think one of the things that they all think universally that they can see, and probably a lot of other people, is that I'm empathetic. I know what it's like to lose something so dear to you due to injustice, and that little pulling to cross whatever the injustice is. I feel it in my heart. Bold. I'm willing to call out people. I'm willing to say what is truth and speak truth, no matter what is popular or what might be considered appropriate. And I am a warrior. I have not stopped fighting, and I will not stop fighting until we have some true representation and we stop the needless deaths and the needless suffering in this country.
Thank you.
This that sounds super important. What is your Starbucks order?
Oh, you guys are gonna hate me for this because I'm not a coffee drinker.
Tea?
But you know what I do when I go there? I get a hot chocolate.
Yes!
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And then I give all of my Starbucks gift cards to my wife because she'll get like 6 cups a day, right?
Steven.
Grande black coffee with coconut milk and 1 Splenda.
Nice. Allison?
A tall chai tea latte with soy and a venti ice water.
Pat?
Well, I went there and asked for it, but they don't have Kool-Aid. I love Kool-Aid. I bought so much Kool-Aid. My nephew was at the house one time and he was helping me unload groceries, and I had like about 20 of those, small containers of Kool-Aid mix. And he said, did they have a sale? Huh? Yeah, he said, they have a sale. I said, no, I just need to make sure that I don't run out. So I used to be a real heavy coffee drinker because of being in the military. And I remember the doctor told me that I needed to ease up one time, and I had such severe headaches. And it was hard to get off of that. And I said, I cannot have anything controlling me like this. So Kool-Aid and Coca-Cola.
Makes sense. All right, Amy, what's your order?
So there's only one time I go to Starbucks, and that's when they have the peppermint skinny mochas with soy.
All right, cool. All right, so one last lightning round question for y'all. What movie star would play you in a movie about your life? In as few words as possible.
You know what, man? I have to go with Al Pacino. He's the best, right? He has played so many amazing characters. He would probably be insulted that he would have to play me. Yeah, Al Pacino's the man. I mean, I remember watching Al Pacino when I was a kid and saying Attica, and then Godfather, and I can go on and on. But man, that would be a bucket list and a half to have Al Pacino even knowing my name, let alone playing me in a movie. So. Al Pacino, baby.
Maybe he's watching right now for live streaming.
If Al Pacino's watching, hello, I will give you my number. Call, let's have coffee or hot chocolate.
Steven, what about you?
I think I'd have to say something like Denzel Washington or something.
I love Denzel. I love Denzel.
So, but my grades are giving it up, so.
All right, I see it. Ellison?
So I'm gonna kind of dodge and give two. I think it would be like Regina King. Many people may not know. And so then, of course, Oprah, right?
Pat, what about you?
Tracy Ellis Ross. She's phenomenal. She don't take no stuff. She's smart, intuitive, and again, she doesn't back down. Tracy Ellis Ross. 702-706-5789.
She went straight to it. Straight to it. Tracy Ellis Ross. If you're watching, there it is. Amy, who would play you?
Well, I'm already in a movie and a documentary. So I think, I'm not sure. I think that I'm already in one. I'm already in a couple right now that are happening, documentaries. So I think it'd be really hard to find someone to play me, actually. Go ahead. Scarlett Johansson, well, I wish I was that good looking. We'll go with that. Scarlett Johansson.
All right.
That's what happens.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. Okay. So now we're going to go into another section of our lightning round, right? This is just more of like a raise your hand if it's a yes question. Don't raise your hand if it's a no. And we're just going to go quickly through these. And then everyone in the audience, I want y'all to participate too. She's already helping us out. Hi. So let's practice. Who in here is a Golden Knights fan? Yeah. Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. So it's gonna be like that, right? So let's get through this. Hold on. This is gonna be hard for me. I'm juggling. All right. Support a woman's right to choose. All right. Support a national paid family leave policy. All right. Support employer-mandated contraception coverage. Support the Paycheck Fairness Act and eliminating the wage gap. Love this room. Support allowing transgender soldiers to serve in the military. All right. Raise your hand if you refuse to take corporate PAC money. Would have opposed the Republican tax plan had you been in Congress. All right. Would oppose all tax breaks to large corporations or millionaires. Support raising the minimum wage. Cool. Think Donald Trump is not fit for office.
Yeah.
I'll put two hands up. Yeah. Support Black Lives Matter. Support the Clean Power Plan.
Yes.
All right. Support staying in the Paris Climate Agreement. Support the goal of transitioning to 100% clean energy by 2050 or sooner. You know, that'd be nice. Last question, support the storage of nuclear waste at Yucca Mountain. Oh, I thought I was going to trick you with that.
You didn't say Simon
Yeah,
Says.
good. You guys are good too. All right, and that is it for our lightning round. Everyone can go home. All right. Thank you so much. So now we're going to get into our moderated Q&A portion. So how this is going to happen, you all will get the same question. You'll have 1 minute to answer each question. Again, if you go over that time, you'll hear that very loud and obnoxious buzzer. And if I decide to ask you a follow-up question afterwards, you'll have 30 seconds to respond to that. So we'll start here with John, and then we'll just rotate every question after that. And then we'll just keep going through. Does that sound good? All right. So what we all know what's happening with Culinary Union 226, but if you don't, they have voted today whether or not to strike. And we'll know the results very soon, so we thought it only fitting that we should ask that first. Right, so in light of the casino workers' vote today to hold a citywide strike, what changes in company practices and workplace conditions would you support for workers in Nevada's 4th Congressional District? John, this is for you first.
That's a great question, and I alluded to that a little bit in my opening, that I stand by workers, I stand by union workers, I stand by my staff, and I'll go back even a little further. On March 14th, I stood with my students. And to me, that was them exercising their rights and their beliefs. And when we walked out of our school together, that opened out all of our eyes to what we can really do with power and power in numbers. And when my teachers talk about striking and walking out, I'm right there with them. If they're not going to be given a fair wage, if they're not going to be treated fairly, the way they should be treated and should have been treated for years, then they need to put up a fight and stand up. And I believe that the culinary workers are doing exactly that same thing. They deserve better wages, they deserve rights, they deserve to be treated fairly. I'll give you a great example of people who need to stand up for their rights. Next time.
There's
Next
11.
time. But yes, I believe in what they're doing.
All right, Steve.
So I'm very proud to have the endorsement and support of the Culinary Workers 226 and the 57,000 members of the largest union here in the state of Nevada. And the fact that they are fighting today to ensure that their rights are heard at the collective bargaining table for work conditions that are safe, that are free from sexual harassment, that they are getting free opportunities to increase their wages in the workplace, to protect their health care, their pension, their benefits for housing and for training, all of which are part of the collective bargaining rights that they are fighting for. And when we have these major corporations who, because of the tax scheme passed by the Republicans, they are getting a windfall tax break, they need to pass that on to the workers who are really the backbone of this city and who make this economy thrive. So I fully support the Culinary Workers Union and their rights to organize.
Thank you.
I also am very supportive of the right to have collective bargaining and to have a voice. For too long in our country's history, corporations have been able to dictate and to basically have glorified sweatshops. What we need to do is to continue to progress from that. We've made some progress, but it's reliant upon the ability for people to be able to organize, to connect, to say, hey, what are you experiencing? What are you experiencing? And to go forward and negotiate. And if those negotiations don't work, then yes, they should take the power of their work and say, we are not going to work anymore until you do what's right. So absolutely, all the things that we've heard so far. When we talk about things like fair wages, when we talk about working conditions, we have to support our unions. It is the backbone of our economy, but it's also the backbone of our families. People deserve to be able to put food on their tables without having to sacrifice their dignity.
Thank you.
So everybody has basically said what I want to say, which I think the question was, what would we do in representing Congressional District 4? I don't know how many of you all know that on yesterday, there was a landmark decision that is really going to put working families and organized labor at risk. And that was the decision by the Supreme Court to say that in some instances, it's okay for employers to make you sign an arbitration agreement and say that you will never join a class action lawsuit. So here's what I want to do when elected to Congress. I want to make sure that we are putting people on the Supreme Court who will not just go along with what we say families need, but I need us to have people on the Supreme Court who will protect the rights that we have already won, who will protect the rights that we're fighting for, the people on the Supreme Court who are not afraid to stand up to this guy in the White House, and people who are not afraid to stand up to those who are already in Congress. I need people in Congress who will say, this is who we are, and put a Supreme Court justice on the court that believes that.
Thank you, Pat.
I support unions, and I support unions even as I'm running for Congress. I am not taking a dime from corporations because I stand with the people. I know as a chief financial officer that you cannot take money and they don't just shell it out because they believe in good governance. They want a return on their investment. I'm the only one talking about reversing Taft-Hartley. I'm the only one that's sitting here saying I'm going to get rid of the right to work state. I am going to be there for the people, and it starts by being beholden to the people financially as I'm running for office. And when I get office, I will be beholden to the people and unions. I am a daughter, proud daughter of 2 lifelong union iron workers, and I will be with the unions.
So next question, Stephen, we'll start with you. Donald Trump has attempted to phase out the DACA program, or Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. Everyone here doesn't know. Would you be willing to sign Trump's border wall or additional ICE agents in exchange for the DREAM Act?
No. And I was one of 5 primary sponsors of H.R. 15, the Comprehensive Immigration Reform Bill. And this bill mirrored the bill that was passed in the Senate, which was passed on a bipartisan basis, which would have provided a pathway to citizenship for 11 million undocumented individuals, and that would have also ensured that there was a pathway. The fact that we're even talking about DACA alone is not a permanent solution. We should be fighting for the 800,000 young people who are currently in this position, in this predicament, because Congress would not act. But we need to be fighting for comprehensive immigration reform so that we can finally solve this problem and allow people to come out of the shadows and to live their life without feeling like they're going to be deported. My mother was brought here as a teenager as an immigrant. And so I have seen firsthand what immigration and the broken immigration system has done to break up families, and I will do my part to ensure that we pass comprehensive immigration reform and DACA.
Thank you.
It's one thing to say that we're going to work across party lines and to work across the aisle, but compromise doesn't mean that you actually compromise on your values. You don't compromise so that you're endangering people or doing things that are not going to benefit our country overall. Yes, it's true that DACA is not enough, and we need to shift our focus, but we must solidify it, we must shore up DACA, we must make sure that we have some protection in place, and then we do need to move forward so that we are focusing on comprehensive immigration reform. This idea of a wall is wrong, and we have to have people who are willing to stand up, and just to cower away and say, oh, well, we have to negotiate, we have to work across lines. That's not working across lines. That's being a coward, that is not standing up for people, and that is not working towards the interests of the people of Congressional District 4, which is what I would like to represent. And so absolutely, I'm not doing exchanges to compromise on our values here, and I really want to move forward with comprehensive immigration reform, because DACA is just not enough.
Thank you, Alex. Pat.
So last session, we actually did pass some bills in the state legislature that, number one, make sure that children of undocumented people can still get health care. The other thing that we did was we wanted to make sure that we could become a sanctuary state, and that means not using our resources to help ICE when they wanted to tear families apart. So here's what I think. I know that we keep talking about immigration reform, and when people see that or hear that, most of the time they're only talking about keeping brown people from coming in to the U.S. That's not comprehensive immigration reform. Comprehensive immigration reform means looking out and seeing everybody. We have people from Europe, we have people from Asia, we have people from East Asia, we have people from all over the world who are here, and some of them do not have the documentation that they need. But the only thing we're focusing on right now, we're focusing on Latinos. We're focusing on people who come from Latin America, and that is wrong. So I believe comprehensive immigration reform starts with acknowledging the fact that right now every conversation is racist.
All right, thank you.
So as the wife of an immigrant from Brazil, I am highly offended at the way the conversations in America have been going about immigration. And just to talk about DACA, that's not far enough. As Democrats, we need to have stronger Democrats in office, supporting the strong Democrats that are in there. DACA is not enough. We need to abolish ICE. We need to go out there and make sure and we need to have strong Democrats that are for the people, that are bold enough to stand up and say enough is enough. The Democratic Party is the party of the people. That's what we need to go back to. I stand with immigrants, and I will continue to speak boldly and ensure that all of us have protections, including our immigrant families. There's 800,000 DACA recipients, and that's not even talking about the 11 million undocumented people in addition. It's time to stand up, have a backbone, and I would say no to a wall.
Absolutely no wall, 100% agree.
Yes, no
But I'm going to tell you something. This one is very, very personal to me. As a high school principal, I see hundreds of dreamers every single day. Graduated dreamers. When I first became a principal at Global Community High School, which had over 46 countries represented by students and their families, I had a young lady show up to my doorstep my very first week named Cynthia Sanchez. She had a pillow and she had a suitcase. She was separated from her family at the border. By herself, she came to me, she found me, and in 1 year, she became fully English proficient, reading, writing, and speaking, and in 2 years, she graduated from high school. This girl is now living in Denver, Colorado, a small business owner, and doing very well. We stay in touch to this day. I'm proud of her and the hundreds that I've graduated before, during, and since that time. So it's personal for me. I 100% support it. Full comprehensive. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So now we're going to start with you, Allison. Pat brought this up a little bit earlier, but the Me Too movement has brought a lot of attention to the problems of sexual assault and harassment, and it's especially pertinent in this district. So how has the Me Too movement impacted you personally? Allison, we'll start with you.
So I think we all have a Me Too moment that we can refer to. And I will just say, just recently, I actually have been the victim of a stalker who was released from prison after harassing me for quite some time, and within a couple of days found me. So this is something that I've been going through. Even now, I've been concerned, what happens as a candidate. Just a few months ago, I was sent messages, you better not ever run for anything else again. Your career is over. And so I understand what it's like. I also know that there are so many different instances and so many different ways that this has taken shape. And we are now really just opening ourselves up to even sharing the stories. And that's what's so critical with this, because so many of us as women have been living with it alone, not knowing that there was a Me Too right next to us, not knowing that we had that power because of who we are, because of our experiences, where we could come together and say time's up, and say no more, and push for the right policies in the workplace and outside.
Thank you. Pat.
Me Too for me was Panama, 1986. I was in the military, approached by a full-bird colonel, and he told me in very graphic terms what he wanted to do to me. I said no, and he continued to stalk me. There was nothing I could do because I was on the island of Panama. I could not even get off the island unless he signed for orders. So the Me Too movement, I believe it's about the empowered voices that are speaking now. But you know what? We have children who have Me Too stories. We have family members who have Me Too stories. I believe that what we've got to do is we've got to take this moment and wherever and whomever we find that has either stalked, that has abused, that has misused, that has sexually assaulted, whatever they have done, any type of unwanted advances, those people need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And I'm glad to say that in the Senate in the legislature last session, we extended the time that people could come forward. The Me Too movement started with women. Make no mistake about it. Women aren't the only ones. We need to continue.
Thank you.
So, being a businesswoman, of course, I have encountered that throughout my lifetime, and also a survivor of childhood molestation. So, that is a very personal thing to me, and I speak this truth because it's something that all of us, really need to be speaking out. We need to take away, the interference with women being able, or men, to talk about what's happened to them. But I also want to talk about other communities that are also, that don't have a lot of attention to what's going on with them. We can talk about our transgender community and how they are being attended constantly. And here's the thing, as we go through this, I am so thankful that there are strong women who are willing to come out and talk about what's happened to them and open up the conversation. But I also want to talk about restorative justice and ensuring that we have these conversations and that we move forward as a community going forward and keep the lines of communication open.
So, Me Too for me are those two little baby girls that I have in the back. Those two little girls that I'm raising every single day, knowing that I have a responsibility to not only be a good husband, but a wonderful father. Someone who comes home every single night to those little girls and make sure that when I get up in the morning and they watch me put my shirt and tie on and get ready for work, that I'm setting a good example. And that the way I treat my wife every single day, that they're watching that. That to me is my Me Too movement. Making sure that they're raised in a home of love, so that when they have their relationships, when they're a little older, that they understand what being taken care of is, what a healthy relationship looks like. That is so deeply important to me. And just as important are, 2 years ago, I had 3 female students come to me, all of them who were date raped by the same young man. And that young man was arrested on my watch, and I made sure that he was prosecuted to the full extent of law, and I'd do that again in a heartbeat.
I think everything that's been said, listening first and foremost to the empowering individuals who have come forward to have their story told. I think that we need to change the culture in every environment where it exists, whether it's in private business, the public sector, it doesn't matter. It needs to not be tolerated. I have a zero tolerance when it comes to sexual harassment of any kind, and that is the type of priorities that we need to place, and we need to hold everyone accountable that commits these types of actions against individuals, period. And I think that the stories that each individual has spoken about, we need to hear them, we need to listen to them, but most importantly, we need to act and hold people accountable.
And stop taking their money.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna move on. Pat, this question will start with you. We'll keep going through. Since the tragedy on October 1st, there has been basically nothing done right on gun control. We saw that again just this past weekend in Santa Fe High School in Texas, right? But since then, young people have been leading the way to pass common sense gun control. So what would you do to ensure that our schools, theaters, and other public spaces are safe from gun violence?
So first of all, I have a solid F rating from the NRA. During that meeting, elected officials, either currently serving or formerly serving, but I have a solid F rating, and I am proud of that. As a member of the military, I have fired assault weapons. They are weapons of war. They should never, ever be in civilian hands. There's no use for them there. I also, if you remember, in 2016, I was one of the people on the front lines of trying to get question 1 passed, which is the common sense background checks that passed, but Blacksaw won't enforce. So here's what I say. What we're trying to do at the state level, we need to take it to the federal level. And the fact that I have an F rating and I still haven't backed down from the NRA, I think that says something. Last session, I was able to pass a bill that takes guns out of the hands of people like Allison talked about stalking, people who have been domestic abusers and people who have extended TPOs. I believe that what we've got to do is have a zero tolerance. Assault weapons and these big magazines need to be banned, no questions asked. And when I get to Congress, let me tell you what, I'm taking it to them. Thank you very much.
So when we talk about gun safety, we need to look at it again comprehensively. We need to make sure that we are passing legislation that is truly going to address the problem and not just cause adverse effects to communities of color, as a lot of laws have done. They need to make sure we are truly addressing the cause. We need to have comprehensive background checks. We need to ban assault weapons, bump stocks. I'd like to have a waiting period, cool-off period, because the number one killer by gun, death by gun, is suicide. We also need to make sure that we are not arming teachers as a solution or making our schools like prison. Let's start addressing the problem. And the number one way that you can do it as legislators is not to take any money from the NRA and not be bought and sold. So I want to stand in solidarity with everybody fighting for good and comprehensive gun safety legislation.
Thank you.
So, I'm going to tell you right now, the day that I decided to run was the day that I had a young lady come up to me and tell me, Dr. Anzalone, I don't know if I want to be here anymore. I don't know if I want to be in your school anymore. We are one student away from a Parkland, from a Columbine, from a Santa Fe in this school district. I'm telling you right now. There's 3 points that I would work on immediately if elected. 1, infrastructure, using Title IV money to make sure not that our schools become prisons, but our schools are respectfully hardened to the point where the kids and the parents feel safe. Secondly, mental health. We are 18 school psych short right now, and our counselors are 450 students to 1. We will make sure that we have comprehensive mental health care for not just our high school kids, but our little ones, because we're missing those little ones. I'm telling you right now, we're missing those. And thirdly, to make sure that our teachers are not holding guns because they have a full platter on their plates already.
Thank you.
So I lost my father to gun violence when I was a teenager. So it is personal. I have seen what gun violence does in tearing families apart. I agree with what Amy said as far as needing to go after the gun lobby and holding them accountable. The fact that they own Congress and members of Congress take their money, and their ratings don't mean anything to me because it's the people in Congressional District 4 who are demanding background checks, the elimination of bump stocks, restoring the ban on assault rifle weapons, closing the gun show loophole, addressing mental health care. These are the things that the majority of people in Congressional District 4 across Nevada and across America are demanding. What we have right now is a bunch of cowards in Congress who will not act to do the will of the people. I will when I'm elected to this district.
We care about the mandates, of course.
All right.
So I'm going to back up a little bit and kind of challenge the premise here. What we saw in Parkland is very different from what we saw or what we're seeing in Santa Fe. Students in Parkland stood up and said, this is wrong, and galvanized an entire country. Students in Santa Fe are saying, no, it's not the guns, it's the people. And what you see there is a cultural divide. It is not that all of America is galvanized and ready to change this. But I do know that as I go out and talk to people, it's the constituents of CU4 who are interested in changing this, who want to take all of those actions, and that is what I will represent. Regardless of what happens and what other lobby is out there, gun lobby and others, and we do need to talk about suicide and mental health in broader ways as well. It doesn't matter, it doesn't faze me. The point is that the people here in CD4 are concerned about what we have been seeing. We don't want it to happen in our public spaces anymore. And just to clarify that, we also saw a gun show just within days after the October 1 shooting. So this is not an easy fight, but I am up for it, and I'm up to represent the people of CD4.
Thank you. All right, Amy, this one will go to you first. Like I said earlier, healthcare is one of the biggest issues that we found young people really care about statewide here. And healthcare costs for many Nevadans is a cause for concern. Right, Republicans in Washington spent a large part of 2017 trying to repeal the Affordable Care Act. What would you do to lower out-of-pocket costs, including premiums and copays?
Okay, I got that one. Anybody that knows me knows that on day one, I will join the majority of the House right now in Congress with the other bold Democrats and co-sponsor H.R. 676, Medicare for All. Not enough to talk about affordability and access. My daughter who's dead, she had access. And what's affordable to you may not be affordable to the single mother down the road. It is time to join the other Democrats in office right now that are standing up and saying enough is enough. We're not going to accept any more money from the hospital, the insurance companies, and pharma. We're not going to accept it outright. We're not going to accept it packaged in the little packages, calling leadership packs. We are going to stand up and fight for the people. 35,000 deaths a year is unacceptable. We need bold Democrats in office to make sure that this stops and not one more death. One needless death is one too many. Thank you.
I actually very, very much respect not only everything that Amy's gone through, but her passion for this. My only concern is CD4 has many, many seniors as well. And we want to make sure that before we move to a Medicare for all, and I'm not saying that I would be against it at all. I'm very, very open-minded. I'm a consensus builder by nature. But I want to make sure that our seniors have a full comprehensive Medicare plan, because what the seniors are telling me, many of the seniors, including my own mother, who is under very, very poor health right now since she had a stroke, is that Medicare is not perfect. And again, we need to improve and expand it before we can go to Medicare for all. Before we give Medicare for all,
Can I remind everyone, I love the audience interaction, so let's be
and
respectful.
I don't mind at all. I'm trying to get my thought out. Before we go to a full Medicare for all for everybody, we want to make sure that it's working for all the people. And then we can move towards that. And that's just, again, my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I support universal health care, period. And Amy's passion and the fact that she has brought such a voice to this issue based on the tragedy that you have experienced is exactly why we do need, as Democrats, as you said, to fight for universal health care. We have to do it in a way that protects and ensures all of the people, from people who are on veterans health care now, people who are on private insurance that are paid for by employers, and it can be done. It can be done. And so I look forward to working with Amy and with other Democrats to make sure that we get universal health care for all of us. I also want to take on prescription affordability, because the single largest driver of healthcare costs right now is the cost of prescription drugs. And for those who have diabetes or cancer or heart disease, what they are seeing is the cost of those costs going up, and they can't afford it. And they're getting sicker, and people are dying.
Then stop taking money from Big Pharma.
Medicare for all covers prescription
Thank you,
drugs.
Stephen. Allison, go ahead.
So healthcare is an issue that's particularly important to me, and I'm passionate about as well. But I will say the one thing that I'm really tired of is hearing people talk about coverage and calling it universal health care. Having coverage is one aspect. It's an important aspect. You have to have some sort of insurance coverage. But that's not it. You know, what happens when the prescription drugs aren't taken care of is that your benefits end up shrinking, or the premium ends up going up, because we haven't addressed costs. The fact is that we don't even have transparency of costs. We don't know how much an MRI actually costs the doctor's office. We don't know how much any of these things cost. So until we have cost transparency, we don't understand how to make any of this work, and that's what's really important. So let's get the coverage. And let's get the costs down, because that's when we can actually approach affordability, because we don't even know what that means at this moment. And then on top of that, we actually have to have doctors and hospitals available, because I can tell you, when there are constituents in CD4 being airlifted because there's no hospital in town, that drives up costs. So we can't call universal insurance universal health care. You have to have all three, and I will fight for all three.
So, I believe that we've got to have, all of the things that my colleagues have said. But as a veteran, here's what I'm concerned about, and I've talked to some people, about the current bill that's there, and they can't convince me that it excludes veterans, it excludes people in the military. I'm really concerned about that, and unless the bill states specifically that it carves out veterans and it carves out active duty, because what happens if someone is stationed here in Nevada and then gets sent to Germany, and the insurance only covers you here in this country? So I agree with what Amy said, but I also want to make sure that we are doing this in a way that protects what veterans, what active duty people already deserve, what we have fought for, what has been promised, and to make sure that the transparency issue is there. We also have to make sure that when costs go up, we know why they've gone up. We also have to make sure that pharmacy benefits managers are being, that process is being transparent enough so that we know how much really should go up or how much should stay the same.
All right, I feel a lot of passion in this room on this issue, so we're gonna do a quick just raise of hands. I have a few questions, so everyone can see here and through our live stream. But how many on stage here would have voted to protect the Affordable Care Act? Just a raise of hands. All right, how many support a public option? Okay, and how many would support single payer? All right, cool. All right, so we have one more question for this moderated Q&A. And we're going to start right back here at John. On what issue do you disagree with the Democratic Party? I wish I could say that.
Well, right now, like I said, I don't disagree with Medicare for all. I just want to make sure that we do it thoughtfully and purposely. And with fidelity. And so that's what I want the audience to understand as well. Again, I'm a very, very thoughtful person. I'm a very, very open-minded, someone who crafts compromise for a living. And so electing me would be somebody who would sit down with everybody from top to bottom, inside and out, before we make a final decision. And I think it's something that we need in this country. Again, it hits all of us personally, whether it's our kids, whether it's our parents, whether it's our grandparents. We all deserve quality health care and affordable health care. I don't think anybody up here disagrees with it. I think we just disagree with the road to get there. And I just want to be thoughtful about it.
All right, thank you. Stephen, what is your say?
I think the Democratic Party can do a better job of fighting for two things, actually. One, our values, and by that I also include our faith, for those who practice the faith. I think that we have given, particularly under this administration, too much credit for the faith and values discussion, and we need to reclaim that as Democrats. I also think that we need to do more to reclaim small businesses and entrepreneurship, because that really is the driving force of our economy. There are more Black women and Latinas who are starting businesses than ever before, but we don't talk about that enough. We don't do enough to put resources and tax breaks and incentives or contracting into practice, and that is something that I will do and plan to do based on my commitment to small businesses and entrepreneurs. So those are two areas that I think the Democratic Party can improve in.
All right, thank you, Stephen. Allison?
So as a member of the Democratic National Committee representing Nevada, one of the things that I have noticed is that you're so busy chasing after these voters who eluded us in 2016, that they're not focusing on the people who are already there with them, who already share democratic values, that we just didn't bother to even convince that we could represent them in 2016. There's this fear. Oh no, we've got to go to middle America. We've got to go to people. We've got to change our platform. We have to adjust. We have to do all these things. How about we focus on the people who are Democrats, the people who share our values, who believe in diversity, who believe that it is the strength of our country, who believe in all the things that we've talked about here tonight. And so that is what I've been trying to push and to make sure that I'm focused on. We have all of these different caucuses within the party, but sometimes it just seems like people are more into self-promotion than they are into promoting the people.
Yes.
This is not probably controversial, but the thing that I most disagree with our party is the anointing process. We had tonight in Georgia, Stacey Abrams, who won. And she won not because she was a woman, not because she was African, but she won because she was qualified and happened to be a woman and happened to be African American. So I believe that if our party would stop this selection, come here and let me anoint you, and then everybody falls in line and everybody says the same thing, and you gotta get this and you gotta get that. Because what is happening is we're losing some very good talent because they have not been chosen. I disagree with that, and I hope that in this election that we will stand up and say to people who believe that they can anoint someone and push them forward regardless of the qualifications or lack thereof, I'm hoping that in this election we will say hell no.
Democratic Party is starting to forget what the party is supposed to stand for. They're forgetting they're supposed to be the party of the people. They keep moving right to try to fight Trump. You need to move left. You need to move left and go back to the policies of the people and stop being beholden to corporate donors. They keep on anointing people that will bring in corporate money to the Democratic Party. And we're losing thousands of seats because we keep on having corporate donor puppets sitting in seats in Congress right now. We need to make sure we get powerful Democrats back. Take back our party and make it the party of the people again. We will regain seats. We will not have to spend the majority of our time courting donors from corporations and special interests, and we can have the people behind the party again. And we will take back the seats that we have lost.
All right. We're gonna start our questions, but don't get up in your seats yet. This is when it's gonna get a lot of fun. I'm really excited. So this is now, we're wrapping it up. Thank you all for your answers. I hope that was really helpful for you all and everyone else in CD4. We're gonna wrap this up now though, and each candidate will get 2 minutes for the stage. The stage is theirs to do whatever you like. Get creative, get fun, maybe throw some food in the audience or at least, right? Like if you need help, I can help you. We can move furniture around. Like let's just make this a lot of fun to kick this off. So we just start off with John. So Steven, do you want to kick this off? He's like, no.
Well, I thought about this a lot, and what I've decided I would do, honestly, is many of you may know I underwent heart surgery in 2013. And it was the scariest thing that ever happened to me in my life. But it was also something that has made me much more committed to health and taking care of myself. And one of the things I wanted to share is I am now an avid Orange Theory fitness guy. And I try to work out several times a week. And it's very important that I do that for my health. And we need to encourage more people to do this, because whether it's obesity, whether it is hypertension, whatever the issue is, all of us can take more ownership in our health care. It's serious, and we need to own it. So I know we want to have fun, and so I'm not going to do any like
Drop and give me 20.
But one of the things that I try to do in my workout is really just have fun with it and you know, make it about reaching a goal, exceeding a number. So this morning I did my workout. I got 930 calories. I did over 31 minutes in the orange zone, and all that means is that my heart is strong, my physical fitness is strong, and I'm encouraging everybody else. So we're gonna actually have a running with your congressman event at some point in this process, and I hope that you'll all come out, and I'll see if I can beat you.
I was genuinely scared I was gonna have to run right now.
So I just thought there was nothing more important than taking another minute to say that I'm here to actually ask for people's votes and to represent the people of CD4. And so you've heard a lot tonight. There are a lot of different questions. I have the utmost respect for this entire panel. We've been doing this as a team, sort of, for a while now. But at the end of the day, I am focused on the issues that are going to impact people's lives. I've shared a lot with you all tonight about my own personal experiences, whether it's my son's disabilities, my sister's disabilities, my experience personally with the Me Too movement. I'm an open book. I try to share, but more than that, I try to listen. And so, you know, the most creative I can get is that I hope that I've earned people's votes. I don't expect them to be given. I expect that there's going to be, you know, criticism. I expect that there's going to be tough questions, and I hope that I've answered them well for you tonight.
Thank you.
This is where we get a chance to make up something?
I'm sure of everything.
Okay, so listen, I meant what I said when I started off about the superpowers. This is a time, I believe, in our lives that we've got to be about more than just a hashtag Me Too, more than just a hashtag Time's Up. We've got to be more about just saying, well, let's support women. We've got to actually do that. And so here's what I would like to do in terms of creativity. I believe that we are already endowed with those powers and possibilities according to our divine design. And so I would leave you with this. Somewhere over the rainbow, birds fly over the rainbow. Then oh why can't I?
I won't be doing the singing. That is not my talent. That was really good, Pat. I want to spend just a couple minutes. One of the things that's a really great benefit of having a grassroots campaign is that we really speak to a lot of people in the community. We are totally grassroots. We have had over 7,000 now to date individual contributions, averaging $20. So what that does is it makes Pat and I a little bit be creative. So, and I'm also work with a lot of young people that make me feel really old. So one of the things we did was, so we don't have the big corporate money coming in where we can buy big signs. But what we do have is a lot of volunteers and a lot of young people working for me. So I wanted to share with you some of the creativity that our people have done with making signs. So this is, come on up guys, they can't see you down there. This is the rollout of our signs. This is called Grassroots with a Guerrilla Style. This is what our signs are looking like. And when you see this, you're going to know that this was done by the people. So I just wanted to share this, and you know, never be afraid to step up and have a seat at the table. Get out there and run for office. You can do it. You don't have to have a large bank. You just have to have purpose. And you have to have the people with you. That's what running for Congress is.
Hold it up! Hold it up! Hold it up! Yeah, there we go!
Thank you, Amy. John, you're up.
All right, so Amy had to follow Cindy, I had to follow the Medicare question. So the one thing about being a principal is, especially this day and age, man, it's stressful sometimes. It's tough work, and one thing I really miss is my teaching days. And one thing I did with my students back when I was a teacher was I told a lot of stories. I wanted to build relationships with them, and I think that's what made me a pretty decent teacher. And I used to tell stories about all my clumsiness. I'm so clumsy. Some people have a hard time believing I was an athlete in high school because I just fell all the time. And so I remember, you guys know who Clark Griswold is, right?
Yes.
So I had a Clark Griswold moment that I was just thinking about. So it was Christmas one year, and every year I put Christmas lights up on just the first layer because I know myself, right? Just that first eve. So one year I got ambitious, and I said to my wife, hey, I'm gonna do the second eve. And I remember the look on her face. She just was like, no, please don't. You have 3 kids. So I decided I borrowed an extension ladder from my father-in-law, and I put it up. And what I didn't realize was I put the ladder up upside down. So instead of the claw part being on the ground, it was the slick part. I had no idea. So I go up and I go on the first layer, I do it, it's fine. Then I decided, okay, I go up to the second layer. I'm not joking you, it was like this perfect timing. As the ladder started to slide like this from way up high, I'm at the top of this ladder. My wife comes out of the house, she looks at me like, and then I look at her like, and it was like this eye contact, like, this is the last time I'm ever gonna see you, right? The ladder slides, my hands grab, and I'm thinking back now, why didn't I jump? It wouldn't be I held on, and I just remembered like this. And literally my hands just trapped between the ladder and the driveway. It was so painful. But my wife got this like nervous laughter, like that giggle, you know, like when somebody gets hurt sometimes you can't help it. She's like, and I remember that, and I almost divorced her over that. But I figured I probably would need her insurance coverage at one point for my clumsiness. So at the end of the day, I'm clumsy, I'm a klutz, but I'm proud of it, and that's probably my most creative story I can remember from my teachers.
Thank you.
I have more stories if you want.
And you can share it afterwards, right? So, thank you everyone. That is wrapping it up. Can we please give a hand for our candidates on stage? Thank you so much. So we're gonna wrap this up. I encourage you all to take this information you have today, absorb it, and go out there and vote. Early voting for the primaries start this Saturday, May 26th. The elections are June 12th. Make sure you're making your voice heard. Thank you everyone for being here today, especially the audience who have been here.
Go Tia! Yes!
And remember on this Friday, May 25th, there's going to be another debate. So we are partnering with PLAN, the Progressive Leadership Alliance of Nevada, to co-host that debate and have a watch party at PLAN's office. So check out our social media for that as well. But again, I want to thank everyone for being here. And now we get to have fun. The candidates are going to stick around for a little bit so you can talk to them one-on-one, mingle, have fun. Most importantly, go drink. Go eat. It's free. Take it all. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a good night.